welcome back everyone to another episode of Talk Your Abs Off. This is a very special episode because it marks 2 years of the Talk Your Abs Off podcast. Can you believe it? Whether you've been a listener since the very beginning or you just found the show, I'm so glad that you're here. Thank you so much for all of the support. For those of you who have donated using the support the show button in the show notes, which helps with the production costs, to those of you who share it to your friends and like and comment on social media and who are subscribed to the show so that it pops up in your feed every single week, I am truly so grateful for you. So if you were here last year for our 1-year anniversary, I did a compilation of all of our ABSolutions for the past year. The ABSolution part of my show is where we call out toxic fitness culture because it needs to be called out. And this year, we're doing the same thing. I'm taking all of the ABSolutions from the past year, bringing them to you. Sometimes I think that we just need to be reminded that fitness does not need to look one way, and we don't need to feel guilty or ashamed of maybe what social media or society tells us that fitness needs to look like. Your health and wellness journey is your own. I preach that, day one in my fitness business and on my social media, which if you want to follow me there, I'm Coach Abby Clapper pretty much everywhere. You can find me if you want to follow along. But yeah, these are just really great reminders as to, this journey is your journey. And that's just it, yours. So take a listen to the guests that I've had over the past year, and let's celebrate 2 years of Talk Your Abs Off together. Well, Danny, the last segment of my show is called ABSolution. So it's a time where we take a moment to maybe acknowledge something that might be toxic in the fitness industry and something that maybe you feel that folks can absolve themselves of any shame or guilt that they might be feeling around certain aspects of maybe the fitness or the yoga community. So what do you think?
I think that if we just kind of chilled out on the glorification of busy and got back to just being for a moment and just appreciate your surroundings just for a moment, that we're so output and efficiency and production and all of that, it governs us on a daily basis, even in the yoga world, so just stepping away from that glorification of being busy.
So I'm curious to know what your ABSolution is, Erica.
Well, we touched on it a bit. It's the really taking time for yourself. When you start your fitness journey, you might feel guilty for setting aside that time when you're not giving it to your family. That was one thing that was hard for me through, certain years of my life, is I wanted every minute to be taking care of my kids. Or not that I wanted to, but I felt obligated and wanted to. So taking that hour a day out of my family schedule felt selfish to me, which was hard. But I think it's, again, really important that you understand that you can't take care of others unless you're taking care of yourself. So you really need to allow yourself and give yourself grace to have that time to, again, go for a walk, get your steps in, prepare your food, or chase some crazy dream like going to Las Vegas to compete on a bodybuilding stage in your 40s. I mean, life is about lessons and about journeys, and you just have to keep learning and evolving and not get stagnant, and give yourself permission to be that best version of yourself.
So what do you think, Stacey?
All right. So here is my take on that. Healthy is not defined by your pant size, how skinny you are, six-pack abs, all the things, right? Healthy is such a well-rounded, and pun intended, mind, body, spirit thing. And so I think, people, you can get caught up in so many of the things out there, right? And how you want appearance and look. And I'm not saying that's not important, but I'm saying that my take on that's not the priority. There's so much more. And it's all the things that we just talked about. I mean, all the reasons that I exercised during those times of my life that were the hardest times that I ever had to experience. I hope no one ever has to, but it quite literally saved my life from a mental, emotional, and spiritual perspective. It had nothing to do with me wanting to see how many push-ups I could do. Mm-hmm. So knowing that you get so much more out of, movement and being healthy and making choices. I live my life as an 80-20 girl. So I'm going to have fun in life. So I'm going to have a glass of wine. I'm going to have deep fried cheese curds because that's what we do in Wisconsin. I'm going to have the thing. And I'm not going to feel guilty about it. No, I'm not going to do it every day or every 5 minutes. But
Right.
that, there are just, to me, it's about the balance of life and, knowing what that healthy is not that image thing.
Ooh. Hopefully this is in line what you're thinking, to just get rid of all of the fear around food. There's so much fear mongering online about all of these things that you might have thought were fine or okay or healthy, and it turns out they are. We don't need to be afraid of all of these things in our grocery store. We don't need to be afraid of sugar in our fruit. We don't need to be afraid of carbs in our potatoes. We don't even need to be afraid of carbs in bread. A lot of this stuff comes down to dose. And so long as we get the right total kind of quality and quantity in our diet, the dose will be fine. But I lived in that neurotic space for a while, eliminating all these really healthy foods, following all these quote experts who had no clue what they're talking about and just getting your attention. And so I'd love for people to try to catch themselves when they might be getting caught into the crazy or pulled into the crazy, and sort of step back and try to reality check, like, is this really the problem? Is this really what I need to be paying attention to and worrying about in my diet?
Yeah. What is something that we can absolve ourselves of today in the hypermobility world?
I would say not all PT is created equal. And just because you tried PT before and it didn't work, you should try it again, because especially a hypermobility PT will approach what you're going through very differently than maybe somebody who's just regular general orthopedics who might treat an occasional EDS patient, or, oh, I know what it is. I had a hypermobile patient once. Definitely find yourself a hypermobility PT, because most likely we can help you.
So Jason, what do you think?
I would say definitely the idea of the no pain, no gain, just because like especially when people work out, they really will sometimes like strive for like, oh well, I want to be really sore or else it didn't work, and it's like soreness can be a metric for, oh, you've done enough, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Like just
Right.
because you don't feel sore doesn't mean you're not making progress.
I don't know that this will be too big of a surprise, but it goes back to this idea of systems and just this like, systems over willpower. And especially when it comes to judgments, whether that's our internal judgments or even perceived external judgments. So if someone doesn't have if we're judging someone saying they don't have the strength, whether that's physically, mentally, or emotionally, to be successful in showing up for their fitness goals or fitness journey through willpower, I instead want to shift it from like, you're not trying hard enough or you just need to commit to, hey, you're not being effective with this approach and we need a better system. So we're not personalizing it. It's not a personal failure. It is what we're doing isn't effective, and how do we adapt to then allow us to be. So we're altering external systems. It's not that we ourselves are letting ourselves down. And I think that then can really reduce shame. It can really reduce guilt and stigma, and it pushes for just a different level of follow through, and it uses data to make those adjustments. I love the idea, like using data constantly for these other areas. Let's not discredit this data, but this data might be more of an emotional data, or might be more of a thought-based cognitive data. So let's, just not internalizing. I'd much rather externalize and look at what are the systems we can manipulate to be successful here.
I grew up doing competitive dance. And so there is kind of, and I think so many people grow up doing something athletic, and then they get to adulthood and they're lacking that, like, what am I chasing after?
Totally.
And it feels so good to accomplish a thing, not just be like, don't get me wrong, I'm a kettlebell instructor. And it feels really great to go and be like, oh, I did just bump up like my snatch. Great. It's a whole different kind of high to like cross that finish line, to do something that like only very elite athletes can do. That gives you that same kind of high that I think maybe a lot of people miss from when they were younger, or I don't know, maybe they didn't experience that and now they're just experiencing it in adulthood. And I think that can be very positive. I also think in a world where social media is like all encompassing, like you're scrolling through, right? And you're seeing these ultra marathons. Like, I didn't know 10 years ago that ultra marathons existed. And now I do. And just because I saw it online doesn't mean that I have to do one or should feel obligated or should think, well, that's the only type of athlete that's XYZ. Like, it's also okay to just be someone who goes to the gym 3 times a week. But I think that social media creates this like FOMO where it's like, oh my God, well, I have to push. And it's like, no, actually, if you're going to push your body to like the brink of exhaustion and like try and hit PRs all the time, you have to dedicate so much of your life to that. And I don't think that that's for everyone, right? Like,
I think that it is using just weight as a metric to measure somebody's success. And we've touched on this. There are so many things that can be markers of success, and not all of them need you to have a medical degree either. We're not talking blood work. We're talking, it could be measurements. It could be how many hours of sleep you get a night. Like, if you move your body more and you are getting fresh air and you are enjoying kind of building strength and things, then you're probably going to sleep better that day because actually you've had a better day, which can impact your life in so many ways. And I think that when it comes to looking at numbers, because we do like numbers to see progress, they're nice to track and make a nice pretty graph. But too often, people and the fitness industry will have that number be weight related. And I'm even talking not just body weight, but weights on a actual dumbbell. And it will be that you're only progressing if that dumbbell's getting heavier, and that's just not true. And I think if we can assign numbers to feeling, how you feel, do you feel good, do you feel strong, then that is going to be so much more powerful because it means more.
You do not need to look like the person next to you, and what discipline means for one person means something completely different to the next person. And so finding what's important to you and your why behind exercise instead of wanting to compare and look like someone else, that is the greatest disservice that I think a lot of we see on social media is so ego ridden and like, you know, king of the castle, look like me, be like me, do this like me. But like, your life is so awesome and you are so awesome as a person, you know, to all of you listening to this, that like, let that be what it is and you keep being who you are and shining. And the person that shows up in the gym and gives their 100% is the disciplined person, not comparing themselves to anyone else, because your journey is so vastly different and is just as important as anyone else's journey. No matter what their goal is, you don't have to have the same goals as them, because that body is not what you would feel good in and your body is not what that person would feel good in. So always just stay true to yourself. Stay true to yourself. And again, one step in front of the other.
Okay, I'm going to go to something. I mean, I could talk about many, but I'm going to go to the one that's really been beneficial to me. I think we need to throw our scales away. I threw mine out. I don't think weighing ourselves does us any good. It does not define our value as a human being. And we place too much emphasis on that number. And so I encourage everyone to throw your scales away. I like to add one more thing on this. I remind everyone too, and I'm working with clients who, because alcohol, food and beverage is always connected. A lot of my clients struggle with both. That when you're laying in your casket, and not to be morbid, but hey, we're all going to die. No one's going to say, here lies Tony Will, who weighed 155 pounds when she died 3 days ago. Okay. No one's going to say that. She was 5'2", her BMI no one's going to say that shit. So y'all, seriously.
Yeah, I feel like honestly, I say this about everything. You could solve the majority of the world's problems if people stop forcing their belief systems onto other people and just minded their own business, because I think that's where a lot of the contention comes from in everything that we're experiencing, social media, politics, the view of the world, is just learning to accept people and put the human back in human being, instead of being so quick to tell people, oh, you're doing that wrong, or no, this is this, and like, no, my belief that. Like, in everything, everybody is so hyper intense about their belief systems, and it's just like, both things can be right at the same time, both things can coexist, and everything doesn't have to be an argument. It's just one of those things that it's just like, you can have your belief system and believe whatever you want, and I love that for you. And this person can believe a completely different thing, and there's nothing wrong with either of you. And so I think if we as a society and just as human beings take a step back, listen first, respond second, I think we'd have a lot of better educated, open, understanding, empathetic people, and that people wouldn't feel so much pressure to look or feel a certain way, that they'd be accepted by society if we stop being so intense with our belief systems and just listen to people first.
Wow, y'all, what an episode. I loved listening back to all of my guests over the past year who really had some great things to say. I hope that you enjoyed this little walk down memory lane. And I also hope that you are following these guests or have at least listened to their episodes. The guests that I have on this show are very intentional and thoughtful, and I really think are helping to change the way that we think about the fitness industry for the positive. A lot of things can be negative in the fitness industry, but I think that there's also a lot of good work that's being done to change that, especially for people who are neurodivergent, hypermobile, have chronic conditions, people who don't feel like they fit in the fitness industry. So, with that note, thank you for listening to this episode of Talk Your Abs Off, and I will see you on the next one.